Now the details. Thank you again for joining us. Traders and importers of various products from abroad and entrepreneurs working in the country agree with economic experts that taxes can be eased, but the rate of the country's income on tax will continue to rise. Olive Nhete begins this edition with this report.
Members of the Association of Importers Traders are among those who have various problems that they want the Rwanda Revenue Authority to review and address. Another problem that we usually face is valuation. You may find that the person at the border asks you how comes you are bringing this equipment on 1 million and yet someone else last time brought it at 10 million. And then you try to explain that the brands are different and that the place where you retailed is different. And then you find that that person most of the time does not understand. And this becomes a challenge to us and burdens us. There are Rwanda Revenue Authority agents who always confiscate our receipts, claiming that we wrote a small price. I usually wonder about that. Why does Rwanda Revenue say that we mentioned the small price? What do they base on to accuse us? What amount do they want us to write? Because even the reasons we provide of why we charge the price, they usually don't accept it. Additionally, there are woods merchants and carpenters in Gisozi who claim that taxes are a burden on them because other people operating similar businesses do not pay taxes, which cause them to suffer losses. Justin Gashaija, one of the entrepreneurs in Gisozi, says that fixed assets taxes should also be examined.
Here at Gisozi, we faced losses to the point where we are about to give up on our businesses. Some of us already closed their businesses, and others have switched to other businesses. We think that if the TVA is expanded or put TVA everywhere, not only in Gisozi, but be requested to every business in the chain of providing goods, we would be okay with that, because we also like to pay taxes, because we know the importance of taxes. You find that someone builds a house, but when he evaluates the taxes that he has to pay and the tenant, sometimes you may have a beautiful houses to rent, but you choose to stay in it rather than renting it, because the money for rent will be all spent in taxes, and then you choose to rent a simple house and live in the expensive, which should have benefited you because its taxes are very high. The Minister of Trade and Industry, Professor Chrysostom Ngabitsinze, notes that they are going to analyze these challenges and find solutions. Usually, when issues are raised, we analyze and solve immediately those that can easily be solved, and those that require further analysis are also discussed about. But normally, when the issue is understandable, solutions must be available. Yes, traders have issues, but we also may have questions as per how we work together, but the necessary is that such discussions provide solutions quickly. Rwanda Revenue Authority has its scope of work, but we who are in charge of trade, what we do is having discussions with the RRA to see if the delays can be diminished. We noted all of that, and there are various institutions in charge. What we will do is to see how we can have discussions soon. But what we put into consideration is that when someone raises an issue, it is because they are burdened, and the only thing that remains is to find solutions as the government. But we need to value what traders do because their work is of a big value. Even their taxes are beneficial. That is why we need to consider their claim. Straton Habyarimana, an economic expert, points out that the decision to ease the tax burden can be possible without facing losses. Increasing the foundation of taxes, increase the number of taxpayers, increase the number of products that has to be taxed or activities that are taxed, easing the tax burden so that taxpayers can increase, and also reviewing other various new strategies that can increase taxes, but by also considering that for the number of people paying taxes to increase, there is need to ease some business requirements so that people can invest in those businesses. As many people invest in those businesses, that increases the tax collections and leads to the decrease in percentage to tax but because the number of taxpayers is big, we reach the amount of money we need. There are various strategies that can be used, but what is necessary is to analyze the best strategy among all of those. And you cannot say that this strategy is the best compared to this one, but you can join those various strategies so that you can have enough taxes and by not burdening people.
On Monday, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Kagame, also reiterated on the issue of tax burden and urged institutions in charge to find solutions to this existing issue.
Increasing the tax burden does not result in collecting many taxes. There are institutions in charge and people who can revise the issue and then provide us with suggestions on how we may find solutions without losses. I am not here to exempt taxes. No, that is not what I mean. Instead, tax collections should be enhanced, and they can be increased, but without burdening people. I am leaving the matter in the hands of those in charge, and they should solve it as soon as possible. This should be shaped so that we can make resolutions about it. I am speaking this in front of the Parliament so that those that are also concerned in the Parliament can also think about it.
According to the Rwanda Revenue Authority, in the last 25 years, the amount of money collected has increased from 60 billion in the fiscal year 1998-1999 to 1,910.2 billion in 2021-2022. At the same time, the number of taxpayers has also increased from 633 in 1998 to 383,103 currently. Olive Nete, RTV News.
Those who monitor infrastructure development in the country say that in order for the problem of transporting passengers, especially in Kigali City, to be resolved, it is necessary to increase the number of entrepreneurs who invest in this sector, as well as infrastructure such as roads. Meanwhile, those who still use public transport in the city on a daily basis are complaining about the service sector. Jessica Gasaro with the details.
Although the problem of public transportation, especially in the city of Kigali, is not new, even now, the user of this vehicle complain about the service they receive.
The buses are very few on the bus stations, but now I've gotten used to the fact that if I get distracted a little bit, I'll be late for work or even be late when I'm going back home.
As KBS goes from Kabuga to Nyabugogo, there are no buses. We stand at the bus stop for hours waiting for the bus, and we are disappointed. The other day, they added more buses on the streets, but this has not resolved the problem completely. Most of the users of this vehicle are those who work in the private sector. They say that they are also meeting losses because they are frequently late and almost every day. After an hour here, you should have traded about 2,000 with a profit of 500. You feel like you are losing. Engineer Mutabazi Peterson, a city planning expert and one of the people involved in public transportation reforms in the last 10 years, says that the private companies working in this sector seems to have failed to fully meet the requirements. So, in solving this problem, in a way more institutions should be added soon.
The existing transport operators in Kigali are able to supply very few vehicles, requiring the entry of new entrepreneurs and bringing in more vehicles to complement the existing ones.
In order to solve this problem in a long-term way, those in the sector find that measures should be put in place, including the increase of roads by the government, and continue to increase the incentive that attract investors in this sector, depending on the increase of roads.
There are those who travel by bus, but also those who use their own cars to find their own roads without stimulating them in the same road, which will reduce the hours spent on the journey, and the number of those who use these cars will also increase.
In the past few days, all the solutions that have been discussed for this problem, including increasing the companies that used to work in the province to come and work in the city of Kigali, did not give the expected results. On Monday, the head of state asked those in charge to solve this problem this year, even though they do not approach him, but it was brought to him by the people themselves.
Numvise ko hari ikibazo cya transport.
I heard that there is a problem in transportation, that the people don't travel easily, and they told me that there is a problem, and I have heard this from the people, but no one who is in charge raised it. Maybe you are aware of it or not, but go and follow it up and then find out the issue and its solution as well.
Those who work in the field also says that in order to solve this problem, the government should increase the amount of taxes and other expenses that have been invested in this field of transportation, especially in the city of Kigali. Jessica Agasaro, RwandaTV News.
Justice sector organs here in Rwanda state that solving cases without them being presented to courts is one way of reducing the time wasted by citizens following up on cases instead of performing their daily activities in the strive for long-term development. Prince Manzi has more.
The report of the Ministry of Justice demonstrates that between 2004 and 2018, the mediation committees received 50,878 cases and 49,528 cases, approximately 97.3%, were concluded through the understandings of the parties involved. With reference to an instance of 120 people were involved in a case of 6 billion and reached its resolutions thanks to the mediations initiated by the court, the Secretary General in the Supreme Court, Beth Murora, emphasizes that disputes are not to always be presented to court.
It is possible because today we have cases that were ruled out to first be discussed at the mediators level, and if parties are able to agree on resolution, these cases will be removed from court cases.
Mediators and justice bureaus, known as MAJ, are some of the ways used to solve juridical cases, where 90% are social cases. There has been an introduction of the alternative dispute resolution policy and the criminal justice policy to facilitate citizens to end their disputes without presenting them to courts. The Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of the Republic of Rwanda, Dr. Emmanuel Shebuja, commented on the parole board view that was considered in the development of these policies and states that these policies are to strengthen the already existing measures.
When the policies were being developed, there was this view that we should establish a parole board. We already have a committee in place that was established as a result of these discussions, because even as we were discussing towards establishing the policy, we were also reforming some of the processes. So we do have committees composed of RIB, the prosecution, and the members of the RCS. And after they've reviewed whether someone can be given this parole or conditional release, then they do recommend that to a higher level, at the national level, in order to review whether someone should benefit from the parole. And once that has been done, the list is sent to the Minister of Justice. So it's strengthening an already existing process or committee that has been there. With of course, in the long term, hoping that one day when resources do allow us, and when the necessity is there, we establish a parole board. But we do think resources and the time for establishing a permanent board is not there at the moment.
The new policies are also expected to reduce the overcrowdings in prisons, especially people in wait of being sentenced. This is where the Secretary General of the Rwanda Investigation Bureau, retired Colonel Jano Ruhunga, states that there will be an increase of awareness of investigation, as there are times one is investigated and yet out of the prison premises. If someone slaps me in the face and I take him to RIB, and he is interrogated, accepts the fault, apologizes or not, it is always difficult for the victim to understand how RIB is investigating him whilst out of prison. But when there are such policies, people understand that someone can be under investigation and yet not imprisoned. The program of solving cases without being presented to courts is limited only to social cases and by agreements between parties. The prosecution cases are to be conducted in courts. This program was approved by the cabinet meeting that took place on September 8, 2022. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
The Ministry of Health has announced that it is going to increase the number of medical staff in order to assist those who work in healthcare institutions to reduce their overtime and take more time with their families. Adams Kwizera has more.
On November 11th, 2022, the cabinet meeting set new working hours, where working hours per day are 8, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., excluding 1 hour lunch break. It was expected that in the beginning of this year, these resolutions were to be immediately taken effect. But this is not the case for the medical personnel, who kept working as usual, 7 a.m., according to a statement released by the Ministry of Health on 31st December, considering the move aims to ensure that the public has access to essential health services. It is a decision that has been well received by some of the medical practitioners, as they also requested authorities to do something to facilitate them as well. They told us that we should work as usual, the usual hours, as that we also have the children who need to be cared. That's why we request them that if it's possible, they should provide the motivational fee, hence so that we can work securely, knowing that our children are taken care of. Healthcare workers who have been on the forefront during COVID-19 pandemic, while other workers were staying at home, they complained too that they haven't received the gratuity which is normally given to those who fulfilled their performance contract.
Ikindi cyadutangaje nuko mu myaka ishize ya mu gihe cya COVID.
Another thing that surprised us is that during the COVID-19, we did a lot of work, but there was a horizontal promotion that they used to give to employees. An employee who has been working for an institution for 3 years, they were supposed to provide an addition to them. And now, in addition to this, it is clear that we are doing our calling in a very difficult way.
The Ministry of Health wrote a letter to the districts and the city of Kigali to pay the medical practitioners their bonus based on the results they got in the 2021-2022 performance contract. Taking this decision aimed at improving the quality of education, increasing work productivity, and improving the well-being of the family, the Ministry of Health then reviewed the request of medical practitioners and found that there is something to be done, including increasing the number of medical staff. Dr. Sabin Sanzimana, the Minister of Health, stated that they determined that their request was reasonable, which led them to take a decision on it. For us, what we are doing as the Ministry of Health to solve this issue is that we are going to try to increase the number of medical practitioners, even though there are where we lack them. There are somewhere we have inadequate number of professional doctors. There are somewhere we also have adequate numbers of them, like nurses and midwives. So the good thing is that there should be some changes concerning to the schedules in some hospitals, as we are adding some employees in those categories, even though we haven't reached that extent of having 3 shifts per day, but at least where there were 10 workers, now we added 3 or 4, which is leading to that good working condition. Then we are doing something on that, so that there will be changes in their numbers, as there will be that off time for them. The cabinet meeting also stated a flexible hours between 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. where an employee may work remotely. Adams Kwizera, RwandaTV News.
Staying on health matters, mental health practitioners are elated that mental health services are now accessible at the community health centers. They pointed this out, that it has reduced the number of patients who don't have their medication on time. Precious Chirezi has more.
Umutoni Nadine is the name we gave her. She's been dealing with mental health issues for 5 months, triggered by the loss of a loved one that caused her deep grief. I isolated myself from others and did not want to live anymore. Umutoni and her colleagues found that hospitals and institutions are proud that mental health services can now be accessed at health centers and customer care is good. I was cancelled and put on medication and I am slowly getting better. Caretakers of people with mental illnesses at hospitals and health centers have noted that bringing mental health services closer to patients has resolved many problems, including patients not taking their medication on the right doses and patients who didn't have loved ones to bring them to the hospital. We have a consultation discussion with them to decide if they need counseling or psychological help. Availing mental health care services began in 2022, and the manager of RBC's mental health division says this was put in place as a solution to certain challenges and to serve a government agenda. Training more health workers to specialize in mental health creates more space for professionals to attend to patients at the hospital, and the goal is for every health center to have a mental health professional. A research professor maintains the view that despite the evolution of mental health services, there is still a long way to go to change the mindset Rwandans have towards mental illness. Rwanda has 510 health centers with a mental health coverage of 82%. However, the last survey published by RBC revealed that mental health illnesses affect 23.2% of the female population and 16.6% of the male population. The survey also pointed out that 61.7% of those affected have an understanding of the illness, but only 5.3% have access to mental health care. Precious Chirezi, RTV News.
The Rwanda Basic Education Board has revealed its intention to equip all teachers in public schools with computers and other tools to facilitate a steady integration in technology into the education system by the end of 2024. Precious Chirezi continues.
The program was initiated with the distribution of 7,000 computers and other equipment amongst 16 schools. School administrators privy to these benefits commend the government's continued effort to improve the quality of education. However, they have also called upon the government to invest in infrastructure and hiring more support staff.
Hari ibibazo byinshi rero ibikoresho bigiye gukemura cyane cyane duhereye ku barimu.
This equipment is a viable solution for a number of challenges. First of all, it will ensure teachers are better prepared for their lessons rather than use computers intended for students to do that. We need more infrastructure and support staff to smoothen operations. REB Director General Nelson Barushimana has urged the 16 schools to use the equipment efficiently and productively and assured that solutions for their challenges will keep on coming consistently.
I think it's a still long journey of establishing internet broadband connections. You know, it even requires electricity in some schools. All the above are in the government policy of supplying internet connection in some schools, which lacks them. As we're going to influence in-book digitization, which will facilitate the student to read that book by listening it through that technology.
REB has shed light on the fact that the one laptop per teacher campaign is complementary to the pre-existing one laptop per child campaign. They have in addition urged parents with the ability to purchase equipment for their children to do so, which will in turn boost the quality of education. Precious Chirezi, RTV News.
Thank you for taking the time to join us, and goodbye.